All right, at this point, I've listened to, I don't know, over 1,000 first phone calls, which is kind of crazy, not only in my own practice, but also some of our other clients' practices at this point. And really, the biggest thing that I've picked up is some common red flags that lead to patients ghosting you. They give you the cost objection, the insurance objection. And what my plan today is I want to help you identify those, help your admin identify them so that you have some strategies to overcome them and we're not dealing with all these tire kickers. And so, the three things I want to cover first are, hey, what are the common red flags that your patients or prospective clients might say on the phone? How do I identify them and overcome them? What's the sweet spot for what that first phone call should look like, from a timing standpoint and logistics standpoint? And then, hey, how do I actually handle all of these cost and insurance objections before we actually get them to show up for their first consult so that these people are going to be much easier to convert? And so let's dive in. Really, my goal with this is to just give you guys a lot of pearls and wisdom from things that I've picked up kind of in the trenches, right? Like at one point in my practice, like this stuff was happening all the time, and I tend to see it more with like Facebook traffic or, if you're running Google ads or something like that. Is you just get this colder traffic that's obviously a little bit more skeptical, and this is exactly what was happening in our practice. I was paying like $2,000-3,000 a month in Facebook ads. And I went back and looked at how many misses we were having, people actually showing up for their first initial evaluation but not converting to anything beyond that. And what was happening was we were just losing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every single month. I calculated one month it was like 10K, right? Like it was a lot of money that was just like leaking out of the practice. And I was a solo provider at this point. And so like every little dollar mattered. And I was so sick of wondering why I was spending all this money on ads, but not actually generating the profit that I thought we should be generating in the practice. And it felt like I was having to pull out these like sales ninja skills to get patients to actually want to, convert to a plan of care. And it just felt like what should be an alley oop was turning into, hey, this is a full court shot every single time. And it was exhausting, right? Like it's so difficult to warm a patient up who is, not pre-framed to a lot of things, or they already have in their mind, hey, I just kind of hoping to come in for at least one session and we'll kind of go from there and figure it out. And I want to help you guys identify these red flags because I've picked up on them and picked up on them in a lot of other clients' calls and admins calls. And how do we overcome those? And how do we get these people really, really warm so that when they do show up, they're actually ready to buy whatever plan of care that you have and you want to sell them? So, what are these red flags? They're almost like these like DIY objections, or meaning, hey, I want to do it myself, or like I'll just kind of figure this out after I get a little bit of insight. It's almost like somebody who is going to Costco. They want to get that like free sample, and like that's going to be their lunch for the day, right? Like that's a problem, right? Like that's not going to like completely fill them up. Like it might whet their appetite a little bit, but it's not going to like fully quelch their hunger, right? And that's exactly what happens. I think so often your admin or you, if you're taking the calls, is you just want to get somebody in for an initial evaluation at whatever cost because that's what they're trained to do is, yeah, I want the schedule full, I want the schedule full, I want the schedule full. And so they'll put somebody who has either low intention or not warm them up when these red flags are popping up. And so what are some of these big red flags that I hear? It is, hey, I want to like I'll at least come in for the assessment. That's code word for, hey, I just want to come in and see what they have to say. I have no intention of buying, right? Or I'm not committing to anything beyond the first session, right? Or, I don't really want to come in for a bunch of sessions to fix this. I kind of just hoping to either get some exercises or, at least get some insight. And these are major red flags on the first phone call. And how your admin typically handles them, they're like, "Oh, no, no, you're not committing to anything. You're just going to come in for the initial evaluation. The doctor is going to tell you exactly what you need, and you guys can decide the right game plan." But now this person already has in their mind, well, great, the front desk just let me off the hook. So when they go to ask me to purchase a $2,000 plan of care, what do you think they're going to say? They're going to say no, right? Like, oh, the front desk girl said I wasn't committing to anything, or that they want to say that. They've already got in their mind that that's exactly how this is going to play out. And so now you're starting off on the wrong leg before they've even showed up in the clinic, right? Which is a big problem. And so when your front desk hears these things or you hear these things, you need to be able to break that down, right? And one of two things is going to happen at this point. This person is either going to, they just don't understand that's how it works. And like, I need to let them know how it works. Or on the flip side, I need to disqualify this person because they're a tire kicker and have no intentions of actually getting the care that they want or need, right? And maybe I get them a free YouTube video or an ebook or some other resource, right? And so this is this dichotomy where I need to be able to break this down. And I'll literally like when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, I need to let them know what the journey or what the typical plan of care looks like. In like physical therapy or chiropractic, for example, or orthopedics, even, it's what's the typical model? Ah, I've got elbow pain. Let me go in. Let me get an X-ray. Oh, it's not broken, so I'm good, right? And then it just kind of like gets better, kind of, right? And like a lot of people just want that reassurance that somebody has checked it out and says that it's not critical and I'm not going to die tomorrow, right? Or I don't need it amputated. Versus, yeah, I can tell you that probably over the phone, or like we've trained our team to know when to be able to like triage somebody and send them to X-ray. But when they come in, like, I actually want to give you a long-term fix. I don't want to give you a short-term fix, right? And so, like, I'll tell these people on the phone, and that's what I coach a lot of people's admins to say is like, hey, look, that initial valuation is going to be a super helpful first tool, but it's not going to be the magic bullet that's going to ultimately help you get back to running 10 miles per week or whatever it is, right? And they just need to know that this isn't going to be the magic bullet. And then you need to ask them, hey, does that sound like what you're looking for? And if it is what they're looking for, great, let's get them scheduled, right? And now they've at least been pre-framed to the idea that this isn't going to be a one and done situation. But if they come in with that mindset, it's one and done, good luck, man. That's a really hard patient to convert. And I mean, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars in sales coaching for, our PT practice, but also for our this admin business. And like even with those sales skills, it's still a difficult conversion to have. And you want to make sure that your admin is catching these red flags. We're bringing it up and actually overcoming it, and actually giving these folks the idea of what the full journey completely looks like, right? So how do we do that? So those are the three red flags. Now, the big thing that we want to do as well is I need to structure my phone call and set it these people up for wins, right? And most often when I introduce an admin or I hear some other admins calls, the first big thing that I see, or the other major challenge I see, is the phone calls are way too short. Way, way too short. It's like, "Hey, yeah, I've got shoulder pain," and then they're like, "Yeah, I wanna get back to, working out," and, like, these admins latch onto that, and they're just like, "Oh, yep, that sounds great. They've got a problem, and I'm ready to get them scheduled," and we're 2.5 minutes in, and they're like, "Yeah, we can start talking about cost, and we can start talking about insurance, and we can start talking about all these things," or they'll do it right off the bat. "Hey, do you guys take my insurance?" And they just get right into it, and you're gonna lose that battle 100% of the time, right? Because again, we need to have some level of value b- before we talk about price. It's the same reason people pay $5, $6 for a cup of coffee at Starbucks versus it being cheaper at home or any other number of places. They perceive value in that, right? And they need to be able to perceive value in from your phone call, that this is the right place that I'm calling, and the person that I'm talking to actually sounds competent on the phone and can actually describe what that journey looks like, right? And we've obviously got a full sales script completely built out in our school community. If you need that, I'll obviously link it below. Or if you are in the school community, feel free to direct message me and I can send it that way. But, we need to be able to have a full value based conversation. And what I typically see is if your session cost is greater than 150 per session, or if you sell packages that are, $1,000 plus, that phone call should at a minimum, this is the first phone call, should at a minimum be 15 plus minutes long, right? And need to really spend some time providing value, understanding this person's story. Are we a good fit for one another? And listening more than you're talking. But then the back end of that phone call, we really need to make sure we're letting them know what that situation looks like. Now, I'll get some pushback from some practice owners. Maybe you're a higher volume practice, especially in like chiropractic or dentistry. I just see the volume being a little bit higher. They get some pushback on that 15-minute conversation, and I agree. I think for you guys, your lifetime value or the session cost are typically spaced out a little bit longer. But if you can spend, at that point, 10 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes, at least warming this person up and not only talking about cost and insurance, that's what's going to set you guys up for a successful win. And if your front desk can't do that, then maybe you need to hire an additional front desk person to actually be able to provide that value and be able to provide that piece to get somebody over the hump and where they ultimately want to go. But minimum 15 minutes, oftentimes into that 20+ minute range. Obviously, don't be just talking and shooting the breeze with the people. It needs to be good, meaningful conversation. And you're going to have some people that are a little less conversationalist, and so don't, stand on the phone for 20 minutes with somebody who's not giving you anything back. But we need to be able to provide value. So those are the three red flags. Let's catch them. Let's handle them before. Let's actually carry a phone conversation of value, at least 15 minutes long. Let's not make that phone call too short. And the final piece of this is I need to completely handle all cost and insurance objections on the phone before this person shows up for their initial consultation. Now, nothing worse than starting out a relationship with somebody and completely blindsiding them. And what I mean by that is hey, I got you coming in for this $67. We run a $67 Facebook voucher. And then I'm going to blindside you and ask you for $2,000 when you walk into the clinic. Pretty rough situation. What does like insurance cover that? Like I didn't realize these sessions were 225. Like now this person's blindsided and they feel like you're doing a bait and switch on them, right? Where hey, they told me one thing on the phone and now they're asking for something else. And that's a surefire way to have a really hard time converting customers, but also a good way to get a one-star Google review of somebody being pissed off about that. Or even on the flip side, maybe it's a regular price eval, and you didn't let them know that you guys didn't take insurance on that first initial phone call. So, what do you think the first thing they're going to ask is when you say, "Hey, it's 225 for the session"? Well, does insurance cover any of that? That's the first question that's going to come out of their mouth. And so then they're going to be like, well, I need to think about it. Or I'm going to call my insurance company, or I need to talk to my spouse, or let me just think about it. It's kind of a lot of money. And we need to be able to handle all of that stuff on the first phone call again, so that when I actually get into the clinic and I'm actually talking to this particular person, all of that stuff is out of the way. It's, hey, here is the results that I can get you. Do you want it? Yes or no? And now it's just an alley-oop. Hey, I know I can help you. I showed you how I plan to help you, and I've walked you through the plan in the clinic. And now I don't have a lot of that. And this was another hard lesson that we had to learn in our practice, especially as we went to bring other providers on, where like I could use like sales ninja skills to kind of overcome some of these things. But now I've got a provider who's maybe not as comfortable or confident in their sales skills, and now, this person again, we're getting a lot of cost and insurance objections, and I could not figure out why. And we also had introduced a new admin at that point, and it was just a lot of change that was happening at the clinic, which led to a lot of again people needing to think about it, wanting to talk to their spouse, I need to call my insurance company, and all these things. And so we have to completely get all of the cost and insurance objections out of the way on the front end of that phone call or on the back end of that first phone call. And so I'm going to talk to them for 10 to 12 minutes. The last 3 to 5 minutes, I'm going to tell them exactly what the initial evaluation looks like. I'm going to tell them exactly what it cost. And then I'm going to pre-frame on the back of that, what does a typical journey look like? Hey, most of our patients, they go on to purchase a package with us. We have an 8 visit package or a 12 visit package, but everything we do is custom, and our therapist is going to tell you exactly what that looks like. And then I give them a range of prices. I don't personally like to quote, $2,000, $3,000 care plans on the phone because I think you will sticker shock some people and alienate some folks, but you need to give them a range. Hey, typically it's going to cost between 175 and 195 a session for follow-up sessions if you do a package. Otherwise, our usual rate is 225 per session. And I just flat out tell them that. Now, I have seen some instances across the country, or depending on the type of traffic, especially if it's very warm, you are going to be okay to start mentioning full package prices with people. But that wouldn't be the first place that I would go. But you need to let them know what people typically do so that these people are actually warmed up to that idea before you guys finalize and get them into the clinic for that. And so, hey, let's catch the red flags. Let's either weed those people out or let's at least warm them up to what it looks like to work together. Let's have a value based conversation that is not too short, which is what most of your front desks do. And then lastly, let's handle every bit of cost and insurance objections on the phone. Let's answer all their questions about that before they actually schedule and show up. And then at that point, that's going to set you guys up for great success to have people actually ready to show up, ready to purchase a plan of care with you, and actually go through the journey and look for a long term result, not this like tire kicker short term result situation that a lot of you guys run into. So, that's what I've got it here in a nutshell. You can check out some of our other additional trainings below. If you need a sales script, that's definitely going to be linked below as well. And would love to see you inside the school community if you're not there. Talk soon.